And he just told me a couple of days ago he had sex with another woman in Australia.
I did natural donations, but I'm STD free, and here's the results.
In fact, he probably not just had sex with one woman, you know. I think if you're saying it's one, then it's maybe 3 or 4, you know.
Why'd you do this to me?
Hi guys, welcome back to Nikki Faces Reality. We're here to discuss the latest episode of Love in Paradise. So much happened in this episode that I'm just like, do these people not hear themselves? Can't wait to talk about it with you. As always, if you're new here, hello, welcome, subscribe so that you can stay a while. Like, comment your thoughts. And yeah, let's get into it. I think that we should start with Madeleine and Luke. So we pick up right where we left off with Luke telling Madeleine at the wedding venue, hey, I'm gonna need that prenup. And so she's like, if you need protection from me, then I really shouldn't be in this relationship. And Luke is all like, come to your senses. And I'm like, I think Madeleine is giving a very valid reaction for a 19-year-old, but that's just me. Like, if anybody has to come to their senses, it's Luke wanting a teenager to grasp a complex concept. I have to laugh. So we see her walk off, and all of a sudden, she's in the back of the car and then calls him. And I just don't understand if maybe she thought that the producers weren't going to pick up on the call if she had the conversation with him on the phone rather than in person. But babe, y'all are still mic'd up. So we still got the full conversation. And I felt really bad because she was crying and she was like, why are you doing this to me? She's crying and he's upset that she's not taking it well. And all of a sudden we see him pull up to the car. But instead of getting in the driver's seat to drive them home, he gets in the back and tries to like hug her. And she's like, what are you doing? And then they're both crying at this point. Like just give her some space. You gave her some hard news. Drive home. And they didn't have a kiss and make up moment when they got home, because when we see him the next day, he's like, oh, Madeleine slept at her grandma's. She should be living there to begin with, but that's neither here nor there. And I just know that she spilled all his business at her grandma's because they were left with some doubts after he was over. So we see him waiting at home like a sick puppy, being like, oh, she texted me, she's on her way there. And he's adamant that he's not going to change his mind. He's not going to budge on this, that he needs to secure his future and that he's going to have a prenup. Okay, Luke. And so he says that he's always the one that's apologizing. That's not going to be the case. And first thing that happens as she walks in is that he's talking to her and she barely says a word. She just pouts her way to the chair and is like, and so like an idiot, Luke is like, I hope you had a great time. A good time? She didn't go to her grandma's to hang out. She left because you guys got into a fight. And this is the moment that I was like, I get why he's with a 19-year-old, because he still thinks like a 19-year-old. He hasn't evolved. Ultimately, their conversation has zero resolution. They both share their sides once again. She's like, I've already proven my loyalty to you. Like, this is offensive. And he's like, you know, it's obvious that we're not going to agree right now. Let's put a pin in it. Translation of what he's saying is, I want to make sure that I can still get it in. Let me leave the conversation until the very end. Because you know it's going to be a whole fight again. And that was it for them this episode. But I have a strong feeling that she's going to have this combo in front of her family so that they can all gang up on him. And he has already told us that he's a bit passive and kind of like a pushover. So to have 3 Latina women at you, I just know that that's going to be her tactic. Watch. But let's move on to the next couple, Kyle and ANNIKA. I'm side-eyeing both of them. ANNIKA's doing some yoga in Malta. Malta is so gorgeous. I had only heard of the name. I had never seen it. It looks like the medieval paintings. It's so gorgeous. But anyway, Annie, is doing some yoga because she's trying to relieve the stress that her new lover has caused in her life, aka Kyle the sperm guy. She just can't fathom the fact that he would fall in love with her and not automatically quit donating. So while she's doing yoga, we see that Kyle escaped to a clinic to get an STI test, and he shares with the audience that he lied to Annika essentially. He only told her that he was having sex with people in London, but I'm to Australia, but he also had sex with people in Norway, he mentioned, and I forgot where else. But he's been active, he's been busy, and he hasn't told her. And so he thinks that the best way to tell her that is to present her with a negative test. Like, see, I've been responsible. My guy, I love that you're responsible. Allegedly, I don't believe you. But I love that for you. However, the problem here is that you're active at all with other people. Annika does not want that. And so that's all that we see from him this episode. Then we have more of Annika. And so I guess after yoga, she's having a chat with her friend. Her friend specifically came from Germany to meet Kyle. Annika, baby, you're putting a lot on this man. Is this not the first time that they're meeting in person? Isn't that like the big thing? So give yourself some time to establish how you feel about this man before you continue to embarrass yourself with introducing him to the people in your life. But then again, she's embarrassing herself on television, so whatever. And so obviously her friend is in on everything. She knows the tea. And so this, gives Annika some relief to tell her everything else that's been happening since her and Kyle have met. And so Anika's complaining about, one, the lack of intimacy. She had already addressed this, that she finds it strange that he, isn't affectionate and hasn't really initiated things. And also, it's one thing that he doesn't do it, but the added element that he doesn't do it because he's physically active with a bunch of other girls, that's eating at her. And this is the real kicker for me. So she tells her friend, like, yeah, he told me that he was, sexually active with someone in Australia, but I know that he's lying. It's not one, it must be like 3. And I was like, you are clearly smart, observant. You can see through the bullshit. So you are choosing to accept the garbage that is coming out of his mouth. You are an active participant in this because you know that he is lying. And she has no idea yet of the confession that's coming her way. So I'm like, but then the scene only keeps getting worse because the friend is like, Annie always has loved a challenge. And whenever she faces a challenge, she puts in a lot of effort. And it reminded me of that meme that says, every time a girl says something stupid, there's a stupider friend saying, exactly. This is what we're witnessing. Because why are you supporting this effort? And then she only gets worse because she's like, well, everyone has a past. I mean, you have a child and he has to deal with that. Annie is like a 30-something-year-old woman. She's almost 40. She was married previously. She's lived a life. Having a child born out of a particular marriage isn't a past. It can't possibly compare to a man that is for free sexually donating and has had over 70 kids. You cannot compare. I am sorry, girl from Germany. You cannot compare, girly. So next week, it looks like they're going to be physically active, finally, for Annie. And I'm just like, I have a feeling that he's going to have sex with Annie and not tell her the news until after. And it's going to be a whole ordeal. That's my theory. Let's move on to the next couple, Alex and Adriano. And wow, they gave us a lot this episode. When we see them, they're food shopping because they're going to his mother's house and they're going to make this big dinner. And it's a big deal because this is the first time that Alex is meeting Adriano's mother. Adriano is apparently a big mama's boy. And so this is important. And he's like, if my mom loves her, like it's a done deal. Alex even shares that like that's the one thing that they're solid on. The fact that they both value family. Alex is obviously very nervous. I mean, we've heard about the microaggressions that she's dealt with, and you know, she's just nervous. This is a big step. And when I heard this, I was like, girl, if he throws you under the bus, bring up his threesome addiction. That should be a conversation starter. But when they see his mom, she is so sweet. She's hugging up on Alex. She's calling her beautiful. It's very sweet. They're putting the groceries in the kitchen, and Adriano throws a sly statement like to his stepdad, like, oh, let's get out of their way, out of the kitchen. And it's probably for the best because it leaves Alex and his mom to bond a little bit. And it was really funny because they were communicating through a translator, but they were such good sports about it. The meal looked delicious. Everyone seems to be enjoying it. And as they get to talking, I don't know how it gets to it that Alex is like, you know, we've had some hard conversations, specifically religion. It's really important to me and how I view life. I hear that you guys are Catholic. He's atheist. What is up with that? I cannot believe. There are some topics that I personally am not a fan of in the first meeting, just because different people handle it differently. I'm not a confrontational person. And there's something about politics and religion that just make things very uncomfortable, especially with people that you don't know, really. This is your first time meeting them. And I think that she voiced this because she thought that they would be on her side, right? But everyone's relationship with religion is different. And she learned that in this dinner. And so, of course, the family doesn't speak English, so it's up to Adriano to translate. And you can tell that he's really uncomfortable with this conversation, but I give him credit for still translating everything as she said it. So the mother answered it, and of course, she wasn't going to throw her son under the bus, but she was like, you know, whether he believes in something or not, the way he feels about you, that doesn't change. And so Alex is like, well, religion is a roadmap of how you love. And I just don't believe that he would be able to do that without a belief system. And the mom is like, I disagree. And so Alex is posing this as, well, I want to make sure that he's going to support me in my journey. And Adriano's like, I do support you in your journey. I find it interesting that I'm trying to love you unconditionally and you are trying to change me. And I thought that was hypocritical because it's like you're supposed to accept people as they are. You're supposed to welcome people into your religion, but not force. And I feel like she wanted to be her way. And that could very well work with someone of her faith. Why force it with this guy that is so different from you? And it's so obvious that she thinks religion is just going to strip away his desires for a threesome. I know the threesome thing is very controversial, but just in general, there are plenty of religious people that are still sexual beings. And she clearly is a sexual being. I mean, we saw that Make Out episode 1 of hers. So this whole situation is just so tense and weird, and it's her doing. And so Adriano is very respectfully still pushing back and defending himself, but not in an argumentative way. But she is. She's getting a little, and I know that tension when you're trying not to fight, but you're fighting. And I'm just like, you guys are doing this in front of his parents. Girl, like, you should have saved this energy for him a year ago when you started dating. To explode like this in front of his parents, this is not appropriate. And I thought that they were so gracious in having this uncomfortable conversation that she initiated, yet she's the one that's crying and being like, I feel attacked right now. I can confirm, and you can watch the tape, they were not attacking her. They were just giving their perspective, and she shared hers. I think that it was a pretty equitable conversation. I just think that she brought it up thinking that she was going to get a different outcome. And I don't think she was prepared to hear that his Catholic mother was still supportive of an atheist son. I don't think she expected that. And it's so uncomfortable because they're in this lady's living room. It's only 4 of them at a table. She's crying. The mom is awkwardly comforting her, even though she came into her home bringing up that mess. And they quickly got ready to go. And Adriano really didn't say much. He was just like, ciao to his mother. And like, you can tell he was a bit embarrassed. And so they get to the car and they're about to drive off, and you can see Alex keeps like looking at him. Like, I don't know what she was hoping to get out of it, but the guilt trip continued, okay? In the car, she's like, 6 years ago, I was going through some things and I used to party a lot and I would have threesomes and this and that. But I didn't need all those things once I found religion. I didn't need to prove myself to people. And I hear her and I love that she has that testimony. And she's projecting. Like, I mean, there's no other word for it. She's projecting like crazy. Because her experience is not one that Adriano has, obviously. And so she's sounding a bit preachy in this moment. And you can tell that he's getting annoyed. And so Adriano's like, I view threesomes as pleasure. It's not to cover something or to cope with something. Like, you just need to accept that this is part of me. You guys, this fight is so ridiculous to me because it's so obvious that these people should not be together. And I don't know if I could take however many episodes we have left of this same fight. Like, get a freaking clue. You knew this man didn't believe in any religion a year ago. And he's been very loud about his sexual preferences. And you have been playing deaf. And so she's like, but you want that more than me? I'm giving you real love. And you've broken up with me twice because of this. Twice. And I'm just like, listen to yourself, Alex. God also teaches us about self-love. He also teaches us about integrity. And so she says that, and then Adriano is like, well, are you willing to give up on me because I don't believe in a religion, but I give you respect and love? And she's like, well, that's the thing. I don't think that you can give respect and love because you don't believe in anything. And I believe that all faithful men that believe in a religion, can give love. And that's when I was like, this girl is brainwashed. There are plenty of religious men in history that have been serial cheaters, that have been predators, that have just been bad men. So the fact that she thinks all men that practice religion are good tells me everything I need to know. I've seen everything I need to see. She's been brainwashed. I don't want to hear it. I have just never rolled my eyes as hard as I did when I heard that because that is the most idiotic thing I've ever heard. I'm sure at least 1 in every 3 subscriber here knows a religious man that has been a dog. I've seen enough of them. On to the next. Let's end with SHAWN and Alliya. So in this episode, we meet Alliya's mom. So as we know, Alliya was raised by her grandparents. Remember that she told us that they were a bit conservative. And her dad wasn't really in the picture, and her mom worked a lot, so that's why her grandparents took care of her. And she didn't really have a relationship with her mom until she turned 20. And she says that she feels like her mom has been overcompensating by being supportive to make up for the fact that she wasn't around, which has its pros and cons, right? Like, obviously, you would have wanted your mom around, but it's so beautiful to see just how she embraces Alliya. I love the stories that she shared about how she knew that there was something different about her child and that Alliya was always so feminine and always wearing her heels. And parents always know. They always know. I think that often they're in denial, but they always know. And this segment was so sweet and just so telling of Alliya's character because she traveled 2 hours just to invite her mom to her birthday party. I was like, oh, that's so sweet. But she wanted to invite her to her special 25th birthday as well as to drop the news that she's going to meet someone special, aka SHAWN. And the mom is kind of stunned. She's like, wait, you've been with SHAWN for 3 years and I'm just finding out? And I know that's maybe crazy for some people, but hearing all the discrimination that Alliya went through, I can understand why it takes her a minute to be vulnerable, even with the people that she loves. And so there's a scene where Aliyah's like getting her wig together, and SHAWN is just like, am I the only one that's nervous for tonight? And Aliyah's like, why are you nervous? And he's like, oh, just want the party to come out well. He almost blew his own surprise. So he gets to the venue, he's setting things up, and then he shares he's decided that he wants to begin his love story with Alliya by proposing. That's crazy because just a few episodes ago, the last episode, he was still struggling with losing Douglas. But he's like, yeah, I've made my decision. And the way he does it is probably one of my favorite ways. So obviously we know that SHAWN is a celebrity hairstylist, and he was working with a special client named Anitta. Anitta is the biggest star in Brazil. I love her. I listen to a lot of her reggaeton songs. I'm just getting into her funk music. But she looks like the life of the party. So it's no surprise that Alliya would love her. And SHAWN got her to help him with the proposal in a video. Oh, it's finally time for the party. Alliya comes in, her long ass wig. She looks incredible. She's wearing the short royal blue dress. Royal blue is her color. It was such a sweet moment, her introducing her family to SHAWN. SHAWN was taken aback with how open they were to her and just embracing all of this. And I think that the problem area for Alliya's family is her grandparents. I think that's why we've only heard of them. We haven't seen them. And the mom is like, my daughter has suffered so much. I just want her to be happy. And if he makes her happy, that's all that matters. And I was like, ah. So SHAWN gives a quick speech and boom, the video comes on. And Alliya is just like, cannot believe her eyes. And he's like, yeah, Anitta wants to ask you a question. And Anitta pops open the ring box. Alliya is obviously shaking in her seat. Everyone else is fangirling, but also crying. It was so cute. Alliya's like, Anitta proposed to me. And SHAWN is like, yeah, you have to say yes to me and Anitta. I about lost it when I saw her little brother crying and her mom crying, and they were just so happy. And it was a joyous moment, and I was with them. I was in tears and everything until SHAWN started talking in a very interesting way. He started saying that, he loves Alliya, but they have so much more to discuss about how far she's going to take her journey. And it sounded to me like very conditional. Like if she went with getting more surgeries, it would remove him from the relationship. And I'm just like, I thought that in you proposing and you making this grand gesture, that was you saying, I accept all of you and all that is to come with this chapter. But now it sounds very different. How did it sound to you guys? Because it literally made me go, oh, come again? So yeah, it went from a very beautiful occasion, and now I'm like, it's feeling heavy on the conditional. So I don't know. And it looks like next week they're going to be having some tough conversations about money and how to navigate that if Alliya were to come here on the K1 visa. So there's clearly a lot to still unpack this season. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. How do you guys feel about that religion talk? Do you think that it was appropriate to do at that time? Let me know what you think about SHAWN and Alliya's engagement. How do you feel about what he said at the end? Also, what else did I want to ask you guys? Also, how do you guys feel about the prenup with Madeleine and Luke? I know that it's controversial, but I would just love to hear your thoughts. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.